Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whiskey. My name is Vin PF, and may I say a very Merry Christmas to you if you're watching this day on Christmas Day. We've got the last window to open, day 25, but I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who stuck with me for all these daily contents. I especially want to hear from you if you've loved this sort of thing. I imagine that anyone who didn't love it isn't watching this anyway, so not a very good scope, but I would really love to hear in the comments what you liked about this series, if you want me to do more of this sort of stuff in the future, more kind of mini sample episodes and things like that. I can't promise daily content. It's been quite a draw on me kind of for time sync, but I've really enjoyed actually finishing this for a change, which is really awesome. And I'm enjoying being able to bring you a Christmas Day episode because, you know, we all like to sit about and watch kind of a little bit of YouTube on Christmas Day, or at least I do anyway. Let's get into this thing and see what we've got, and then we'll have a little chat and enjoy the last dram together. Oh, it's quite pale. Oh, okay. The big guns have been left till last. We have the Douglas Lane Old Particular, and this here is a 29-year-old single grain distilled at Cameronbridge in 1991, 50% ABV. A single cask, but probably not cask strength, otherwise it'd be something like 50 point whatever. Let's get this in the glass. This poor thing deserves to be sat out in the air a little bit longer than I'm going to give it, but anyone who watches this channel will know that I kind of wrap on grain a little bit, but it's important to know that I only wrap on youthful grain and kind of poor blended whiskey. And yeah, like my favourite example is like Haig Club is a good example. Haig Club themselves, the big one, that it's just expensive. It isn't really bad whiskey, you know, it's 8 to 9 years old, something like that. The real criminal is the cheaper one, the Haig Club Clubman, and it's just god awful. And I'm sorry if you enjoy it, but you know, even for the price, it's just not good whiskey. And that must be 3-4 years old maximum grain whiskey, and that's where it gets a bit raspy and a bit nasty. But I have been quoted in saying, and I'll say it again, if you put that same grain, you know, Cameronbridge, that is Haig Club, if you put that in a cask for a couple of decades, or in this case nearly 3 decades, something magical usually happens, and you get these kind of incredible creamy cereally notes that you don't get from single malt whiskies. And it's good as well because you get them really cheap in comparison to the same ages for single malts, just because it's got grain. I don't know, you know, it's just a popularity thing. Unfortunately, I can't leave it sitting in the glass any longer, as much as I would love to sit and chat to you guys, but I can already see how thick this thing is, just floating around in this glass. The legs haven't even started dropping, it's crazy. Okay. Now, I should imagine, obviously this is going to be natural colour and non-chill filtered, knowing the guys at DL, but for a colour like that, after 3 decades, you know this is like third fill, but it doesn't need to be any more than that. It doesn't need to be first fill. It's certainly not virgin oak. You know, grain and virgin oak don't tend to mix so well, but the whole point of sticking it in a tiled old cask is to really let the spirit chill out, because the spirit can be quite hot and heavy and a bit raspy, as I said earlier, and it needs time just to mellow out, oxidise a bit, just really kind of get to a point where it's a good quality product like this without too much oak influence. If you put something like a grain, if you know how this is, I'm not going to go into it too in depth because this video is just going to be really long otherwise, but it's quite an industrial process. You can raise the ABV quite high on a column rather than a pot still, and what comes out of it tends to be, in my opinion, you might think differently, but it tends to be slightly less flavour forward than a single malt whiskey in a pot still. You know, it's more of a kind of, it's just more of a spirity vibe about it, rather than the grain really playing a key part of it. So what you get is it's not tasteless, but it's near that kind of tasteless vibe. And if you put it in something that's too fresh oak-wise, you're going to overpower it very quickly, and you're just going to get something that tastes like the wood. And what you want is a nice mix between the wood and the spirit and whatever other influences you want to add to it, like sea air or anything like that, you know, whatever marketing gumph. Okay, let's crack on with this then. I've witted a bit enough, but let's go. Amazing. As I said earlier, they get this amazing creaminess. It's like a it's like a custard cream almost. You know, those kind of, I don't know if you get those worldwide, but in the UK we get these custard creams, 2 kind of malty biscuits with a little kind of cream layer inside. Bags of vanillas. You want to say things like butterscotch and stuff like that. But it's one of those ones where you can stick your schnoz in without fear of it kind of ABV kind of really wrecking the place, and smell something different every time. Okay, I can't wait any longer. I've got to try this thing. Oh, what a treat. ABV is fairly making itself well known there. I'm going to take another sip. Now, there'll be no surprises from the nose to the palate. A bit more lively in terms of the fruits and the kind of vanillas and those butterscotchy elements that I thought they're a bit more lively this time, with the ABVs really kicking in to help that all mingle around. But as I said when I was swirling the glass, it's got a kind of really, really thick, luxurious mouthfeel to it. You know you're drinking some good quality liquid. I have no idea how much this will be. I imagine it's probably not as horrendous as you think, but it's going to be high up there for sure. But what a way to finish the box. You know, it's been a bit hit or miss, this box. There's been some low points for sure, which is a shame. And there's been some doubles for me, which I explained on the second video of the second double. Which again is a shame, but I know that not everyone's got that. That's just me, because I had a kind of promo box delivered to me instead. Obviously, I repeat, I didn't pay for this thing. It was gifted to me by the Really Good Whiskey Company for me to do this kind of content. But yeah, overall, I would like to talk a little bit about advent calendars, because I know they have some controversy. And I think I'm preaching to the choir on this, because if you're not interested in these advent calendars, or you think they're overpriced, then you're definitely not watching this video. If you are watching it, then you're just interested in either my content and my thoughts on it, or you're drinking along with this one or some other kind of advent calendar as well. I know at least one person's got the premium version of this, which we'll get into in just a moment. Personally, I think the value is there, especially for a one-time hit. There are lots of these around now. I'm not necessarily suggesting that you have to buy the Really Good Whiskey Company one. There are, other ones available for sure. So you just really pick a retailer that you know and trust. And these days, most of them will give you a list what's inside them before you buy, so that you can gauge the value of it if that's what you're really after. Although I kind of have to impress on people that this really isn't about the value, because you've got to remember, on top of that, you've got bespoke boxing, you've got bottling that needs to occur in Scotland, because most of this is Scotch, and there's some additional costs there. You can't expect a 3cl sample to be the equivalent of 3cl of a bottle. It's going to be a bit more, because there's some additional processing involved in that. So yeah, I think from my personal standpoint, the value is there, because in this case, in this box, it's introduced me to a lot of whiskies I've never tried before, and some that I never even heard of. It was a bit of a disappointment to see things like the Famous Grouse, which is the only real bad one in there. There were some ones I didn't really like, but it was still interesting to try them. Bit of a shame the Famous Grouse was in there. In my personal opinion, I would rather have had a box with just 24 windows on it and for the same price, and not had the Famous Grouse in there. That is not an additional dram for me, but that's just my own feedback on this particular box. I've always enjoyed a whiskey advent calendar. I think they're good for people that are umming and ahhing about it. If you're, like I said, dead against it, then it ain't going to be for you. Just leave it alone and buy a bottle and move on. But if you've ever been interested in doing an advent calendar one year and you thought it's a bit pricey, I would implore you just save up 1 year and just get one, just once. You don't have to do it again, but it's a little bit of fun, and I think every whiskey fan should do it at least once in their lifetime. And these are only going to get more popular. They're not going to go away. So yeah, a bit of a longer episode today, because I've gone into that a little bit more. I'm going to really enjoy this dram. Now, what a way to finish. So thank you very much to the Really Good Whiskey Company for sending this over to me and allowing me to try this last little dram. I guess one final thing is, I would say, although it's been amazing to try this really well-aged whiskey and a couple of really good ones in this box, I think I would have preferred it to be a bit more even, rather than it kind of like being a bit of a reverse bell curve as it turned out to be. Some real highs, but then the lows that came with it. I'd rather them all just be okay in this version, because there is another version which is the premium box. I don't know exactly what's in that, but every single window is like like a high age statement or something like that. It was a lot more money. It was like 300 quid, of course, but every whiskey in there was meant to be completely banging. So yeah, that would be my second bit of feedback, I guess, is that I'd prefer a little bit more consistency in the quality across the box, rather than having kind of those extreme highs versus those lows, let's say. But yeah, if it weren't for that, I wouldn't have got a 29-year-old grain. So, you know, take that with a pinch of salt. But let me know in the comments below what you think about the Whisky Advent Calendars. I would love to know your thoughts about them. And let me know if you'll be getting one next year, and if so, which brand will you be getting? Again, thanks very much for watching this series. I'll be back to normal content, like one a week from January, but I've been really enjoying doing this content, and I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's supported the channel over this year and kind of further back, and a massive Merry Christmas to everyone who's watching this today. Cheers, let me know what you're drinking, and I'll see you again in January for more no nonsense whiskey videos. Thank you.